Hello, FYE students. Welcome back to our third session. Today we're going to be talking about academic advising. Most of you will be doing your advising in the next several weeks, so please check your Bethel email for an email from your advisor if that's how they communicate. I do want to really quickly acquaint you with this thing right here. This is called a course schedule, and they just came out this week. You'll see them around campus. You can pick up your own copy in the registrar's office in Huffman or in the Center for Academic Success or the Learning Commons. But I just want to acquaint you with a couple things in here that are pretty cool. First, just inside is a little legend that will tell you when courses are offered. So as you can see, E means every semester, EF is every fall, ES is every spring, and then those other ones are alternating, like ASO would be alternating spring odd years. So that would be this spring because 2021 ends in a 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9. And so those classes that only come up every 2 years are very important that you don't miss them at the opportune time. They would take weight over a course that, for example, is offered every single semester. So I just want to point that out to you. And then inside you'll see that the classes are organized by department. So you would find the department that your particular major falls under. So in this case, you can see the Department of Business up there. The first course that's listed, you can see an E to the left, so it's offered every semester. And you can see that that first course, there are 2 sections of, so it's taught at 2 different days and times. And so those kinds of courses are things that will give you more options than those courses that are only offered every other year. So pay attention to those things. And then this is new in the course schedule this year. So you can show upperclassmen this and look really knowledgeable, but now the courses are also organized halfway through by the time period. So if you are looking to take a class at a particular time period, maybe you're an athlete or something, you can look and see what courses are offered at that time period and if they're conducive with your major or as an elective that you might want to take. In the back here is this class schedule worksheet. This is a great tool for you to fill out before you go to your advising session, and if you need more copies of them, we have them in our office in the Center for Academic Success. But I would suggest filling it out, looking in your department, and seeing what courses are offered for your major, and putting them all in. So you may have 4 classes in that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11 o'clock time slot. But if you're going in, at least you know what all your options are at that time, and then you can weed things out. I think most advisors would be very appreciative if you come in with an idea in mind of what you might want to take. Also, I want to point out that this year we're doing something very unique, never before done, and we're having a winter term during the month of December. So there are 7 online courses offered in a 3-week condensed format. So for some of you who may have had to drop a class or maybe about to drop a class because it's just not going to work out this semester, this would be a good option for you to maybe pick up those extra 3 credit hours so that you are averaging 15 hours a semester to finish on time. And then in the back of the course schedule is always a final exam schedule. Now the one that's in here is the final exam schedule for spring. And as you may be aware, our final exam schedule for fall is not the typical schedule. So just know that this is back to the normal schedule for spring, hopefully. Now I'd like to introduce you to your panel of faculty advisors that we have here today. So we have Dr. Brian Isaac from chemistry. Yeah, raise your hand or stand up. Dr. Lori Stutzman from business. Dr. Robbie Krinkert from English, and Dr. Norm Spivey from psychology. So at this point, I'm going to sit down and ask them some questions, and I'm going to let you hear from them as to what would be meaningful for them as you're coming to your advising sessions, what they would like you to be aware of and know. So, first question, why is it important for students who are currently struggling in a class to talk to you about that?
I'll jump in. So there are times when you can add a class, which of course is just during the first few days of the semester. That's not really where we're talking here, but if you're struggling, you can actually drop a class rather late into the semester. We've just turned in our midterm grades. You have access to those on your My Bethel, and you can see the classes that are dropped. Most of those classes, passing is a D or better. But in your major, that might move up to a C- or a C, depending on your major. So you want to be talking with your advisor if you're in a position where you think a certain class might be a concern. You have to be careful too. You want your advisor's input on things like, you need to keep a full load. You might have requirements with athletics and so on. So those conversations will take a little bit more than just deciding by yourself whether to drop or continue a class.
So the important point there is not just registration, it's embedded in the title of this person who has been assigned to you, advisor. They're there to actually give you advice, to help you navigate the difficult thing. And there might be a lot of options if you're struggling in a class that an advisor knows about that you don't know about. So you go to them for advice about academic things.
Yeah, just to jump on that just for a sec too, I think the advisor is the consistent person that you're dealing with through your 4 years. They're the ones that you're starting to get to know a little bit better. So as Robbie was saying, yeah, we can give you some of the advice that you need. We can open up the doors for you to access some of the resources that are there. So it's not just a one-time thing in a particular class. This may crop up periodically as we're moving through your 4 years. So you need to get connected with us. You need to feel comfortable coming to us so we can give you some of that advice.
And remember too, we might not have you as a student yet, as a freshman, but we're still your advisor and we still know the major and we know the other teachers. And so we'll be meeting with you every semester, middle of every semester from now on. So even if you don't think you know us yet or we don't know you personally from being in a class, we still want to help you and we're still able to do that.
Awesome. What do you guys expect from your advisees?
They need to come in prepared to discuss what we're going to do for this coming semester, at least looked over the class schedule that you were talking about earlier. We give out to our students a worksheet so that they know here's what they've got to do for the Bethel Core or the gen ed requirements, here's what they've got to do for the major. I expect them to know some of what we're supposed to be doing for each of those areas, coming prepared to discuss it. Some of them will have their entire schedule already worked out. Now it's my job to make sure that everything is going to work out as it should. But this should be a cooperative effort so that I feel like they're putting some time and effort into it. They're invested in it as much as I am.
Also, you want to make sure there's no holds on your account. So there's a variety of reasons there might be a hold, but we can't register you or put you in classes until those holds are gone. So it might be a bill with the business office, it might be some paperwork with the registrar, maybe admissions still needs some high school transcripts. Sometimes it's student life needs you to fill out something online. So just check that there's no hold on your account, and if there's a problem and you can't figure it out, let us know and we'll try to figure out what that might be.
So if a student has a hold, would you still go ahead and want to meet with them and at least put a tentative schedule together while they're working on getting that hold lifted?
Maybe not the first couple of weeks, but after the first couple of weeks, I would be doing that, yes. Just so we have a plan. So as soon as the hold's lifted, we can just slot all the classes right in.
And other thoughts of what you expect from your advisees?
To show up for their assigned meeting. Nothing irritates a professor more than to plan for it. We designated that time and you don't show up. So just make sure you're there.
So in addition to preparedness, I expect and hope and try to initiate conversations beyond just about which classes to take for next semester, about like what are your interests? What do you like? What are you excited for? What do you have you discovered a passion? Is there a particular professor that you like really click with, and maybe even it's outside your major, you'd like to do more with that? I want to know what makes them tick so that I can be a better advisor. So I expect them to be self-revelatory about their aspirations, hopes, what makes them click so that I can be the best kind of advisor I can be.
And then I would add, yes, show up for the appointment. Some majors are more flexible and some are more prescribed than others. We don't have among us, for example, a nursing advisor or education, but some of those, your schedule is almost set in stone. Or engineering might be another one of those. Others of us advise majors that are much more flexible, and we can work with that flexibility. If you come in with a schedule and it matches what I've prescribed, great. If it doesn't, again, it depends on who your advisor is and how that can work. I also do something that's a bit different for freshmen. To be honest, I expect when you come in, you'll be like Dr. Prankert has said, Robbie, how do I call names here? But anyhow. So the idea, coming in and be serious and yes, reveal a little bit of what's working for you. Is your load too heavy? Is it going well? If you're in a sport and that's heavy in one semester, maybe that matters. So there are things like that. I'm also expecting for freshmen that this first time advising is a little bit of figuring out the system. And by the time you are, by the time you're a junior, I think you'll have a lot of this down. And then when you bring in a schedule, I'm looking at it and we're probably taking it. So some of those things, that growth is what I'm expecting along the way.
What kinds of things about your advisees are helpful for you to know? So for example, if a student is a below average reader, would that be something that would be valuable information for you to have in terms of determining classes? Or if your student has ADHD and they take meds that wear off by 3 in the afternoon, is that something that would be helpful for you to know as an advisor in terms of avoiding night classes, for example?
Yes, and also, what sport do you play? When's practice? Do you have a job? Are you on campus? Are you off campus? Things like that all are very, very helpful. Usually students are pretty good about like letting on that I can't have class on Tuesday and Thursday at this time because I have a job then or whatever. So all of those things are very helpful to know.
It's kind of as we've mentioned already, the more I know, within reason obviously, but the more I know about the student, the more I can help, the more I can work with them and deal with whatever restrictions or whatever parameters they're needing to be set, the more I can work with them. Yeah, I think again, we've got to get transparent, we've got to get connected to each other, and we've just got to build the trust between us. Because later on, again, I realize we're dealing with freshmen now, but later on, we're going to be talking job opportunities later when you graduate. We're going to be talking graduate school maybe. We're going to be talking about all of those things as we're moving forward, the goals that you have and things like that. So we've got to get used to talking to each other. We've got to get used to really being open and sharing with each other so we can help. We can help you traverse all the difficulties and get the goals met that you want.
And I think too, just don't be scared that we're the professors. We're just regular people. We weren't, excellent in every course we've ever taken either. So we're okay with, like, do you not like math, or is writing hard for you? So let's make sure we don't put literature and written comp 3 in the same semester. If you're scared about taking your science, can we do it in the May term? Let's just have a conversation about which ones you might want to just be really careful of, and we'll just make sure we're following kind of what would fit your personality, your kind of experience, and the way that you do school.
And I'll add a twist on this because I'm agreeing with everything here. Sometimes there are those things we have to guard against to make sure you're protected, and then other times it's, wait, I came to Bethel so I could do this and that. And maybe I want to put music in, or theater, or sports, or maybe it's another major that I'm really interested in this. Is there a way to pick up a minor, or at least to take some extra classes that are just in my interest area? Or there's this one professor that I want to take. Come with those things too.
One of you mentioned May term. What is May term and why is it important?
Well, it's a class that's embedded in a 3-week period, so it meets every single day. So it's essentially covering the regular length of a semester, but it's just in 3 weeks. It's very condensed. It's 3 hours a day, every single day. So it's one of those things that a student, I think, has to be mentally prepared for. It's different than going through a regular full semester. And everything happens quickly. You're required to do a lot very quickly. So I think it's something that's, again, part of our conversation with the students. We're looking at a major. Is this something that you can do? Is this something that we can be successful in? Usually it's a general education class or a Bethel core class. You can deliver those fairly well.
Sometimes the topic that you may have a hard time with, 3 weeks lets you focus. But I also have found when I've taught May term that in that 3rd week, if it were a regular semester, here it is in November, and I'm asking you to remember what we did back in September. And that's a challenge. But in a May term, 3-week course, in that last week, I'm asking you to remember what happened 10 days ago. Those kinds of things can help for difficult topics.
Because it's, in a normal semester, you're taking 15 hours. That's probably 5 classes for lots of people. You're focused on one thing intensively for 3 weeks. And anybody can survive 3 weeks or really flourish
Yeah.
3 weeks, and it's the same amount of work as you would be doing in a normal 3-week span if you had 15 hours, but it's just focused on one thing, one learning.
When you're advising, what is something students do that both, it's a two-part question. What is something students do that bother you and something students do that delight you?
What delights me a lot is I've had students that come in and had their whole 4 years all worked out already. Now, it doesn't usually work out exactly that way. There's some things we're going to have to tweak, but it tells me that they're invested, and it tells me that they're already kind of thinking about what it is that we're going to do, not just this semester, but again, forward thinking and a commitment to being prepared and all of that. What annoys me probably more than anything else is a couple of things. One, if you don't show up, but the other is if you are and you're not talking much, or they don't feel invested. So let's try to look at this. And they say, okay, fine, whatever. And well, what do you think we ought to? I don't know. And so again, I want you to be thinking about things. Again, some of the things we've been talking about. What makes you tick, and what kind of things might you be interested in? And if you're not sharing those things with me, it's hard for me to help you figure out of all of these different classes and things like that, what should we be kind of focusing on, and what can we do to complement the major. So just, come in prepared to discuss, and don't just shut down on it. I need some things from you as the student.
I think I could probably say both by saying what I love. Let me set a bit of context here. In 3 years from now, you'll look back at your freshman year and you'll say, wow, I've changed a lot. Okay, so what I really love is a student who comes in and wants to explore, wants to do some different things, I've got 3 more hours of room, can I take, and they'll start exploring. I love that kind of thing. I think you'll benefit from that. Sometimes that might even change your trajectory for a career. Those are wonderful things to me. So the flip side of that is, no, I don't want to do that. Or let me just take the minimum. Or do I have to do it with that professor? Those kinds of things. So let me focus back on the positive. This is a lot of growth opportunity here, and take advantage of that.
Yeah, I'm delighted by that too. Someone who it's like Christmas when the course schedule comes out, and they're like they're so excited for what's coming. That's delightful to have someone come in the room and go, how am I going to do all of this stuff that I want to do? And I love that. And then they've got like 6 different scenarios for how they do it all. I love that. What troubles me and bothers me sometimes is the language of how do I get this out of the way. I want to take that class to get it out of the way. I wish that would just be banned from use, or like something would zap anybody who says, take that class to get it out of the way. As if college is a bunch of hoops we've set up for people to jump through so that they can get a degree, rather than this wonderful journey of learning. And I think the first person has the attitude of, I'm on this journey and it's so exciting. How am I going to do all of this stuff? I love that.
Some students say get it out of the way, and some postpone it till their senior year. And that's, I guess, one of the difficulties I have, is not following the advisor's suggestion to take some of those classes, maybe it's a language or a math or your PE classes, and just do them freshman or sophomore year, rather than say, I don't really want to do that now. Just keep, almost in denial that you have to do certain things, and then your senior year, you're in classes that aren't in your major and perhaps aren't your passion. And so kind of working through a schedule that maybe every semester, not all 5 classes are your favorite, and let's just spread out the joy, rather than postpone things that might be difficult.
When do you guys want to know, for example, if a student wants to study abroad and they already know that in fall of their freshman year? If they are planning to go to graduate school, for example, or if they want to do an internship for credit, if they want to graduate in 3 years or 3.5 years. When do you want to know those things?
Right now.
You want to know it as soon as it crosses the student's mind. And it doesn't mean that the student won't change his or her mind about that, but it's a lot harder. It's more frustrating to learn, I've always wanted to do this, and you learn it 2 years later, it becomes harder to navigate. But it's much better to just be, as soon as you're thinking about this. I love those emails that come saying, hey, I'm thinking about whatever. And that's great. Now we can talk about it. And we can figure out some scenarios of how to make it happen. And there's often several scenarios for how this can happen if you start early. There become decreasing numbers of scenarios where it works the later it happens. But even if it comes up, if you suddenly like have this epiphany late in the game, and it is like, now I think I want to. Don't hold back, because let them know. It's amazing what might be able to be pulled off, even when you come up with something late.
Yeah, I think the earlier the better is as often as we can. Just then it's on our radar screen, and then we can begin to help prepare for that. And sometimes the student thinks about it, and then they forget, and then suddenly, 2 years later, now they've suddenly come to grips. At least it's on my radar screen, so maybe between the two of us, we can begin towards that, whether it's grad school. Normally, we start talking, in fact, I'm the one who brings that up. We start talking grad school about their junior year, as they're moving into their junior year. And same thing with internships. Our internships are required, so we start looking at internships as we move from the sophomore year to the junior year, because we're looking at, especially junior year as well, we do that. So if I get it on my radar screen, we know about it, we can start preparing for those kind of things. But I agree with Robbie, don't be afraid. If it's in the last moment and you want to do something, we'll figure out a way to do it. And it's better if I have some previous awareness of it, but we'll figure it out. We'll come up with something.
Why is it important to take 15 credits a semester? And is there ever an exception to that?
Well, math comes in, I suppose. So it takes 120 credits to graduate. 8 semesters, divide, you get 15. Now, to sit on the average all the time, that works. But you can't have a high, you can't have a low. So it may be that your sport is heavy in spring pretend, maybe fall's a bit heavier, spring's a bit lighter. So things like that can work. There are also times when you realize, you know what, I really could be done in 3 years. And that might be worth stepping it up just a bit. So there are reasons to go different ways. But averaging 15 is a good picture. I'll add one piece. Sometimes a class can be a risk. I mean, it really can. And so having 15 hours means that you could, if you have to, drop back to 12 if something goes wrong. If it's a 4-hour class, well, maybe 16 is a better picture for that kind of reason. So those are ways that you might look at that and be flexible.
Last question. What do you wish students understood about advising? One final parting piece of advice.
I think for me, it's not tedious. It's enjoyable. That advisors love meeting with you and learning about you and helping you. At the end of my appointments, we always pray together, because we're just sort of seeking God's will as to what this semester looks like and what jobs might look like. And so I love it. And so don't come in scared or nervous or thinking you're sort of wasting someone else's time, because this is part of why we're here. We love connecting with you.
Like I said before, the advisor is the constant contact that you have. And for me, what I really enjoy is we're going along the journey with you through all this, because I don't have you every semester and I don't have you for every class, obviously. So to be able to be with you, to find out what's going on, to help figure out if it's minor, whether we're looking at grad school, whether we're looking at job situations, to be able to go along the journey with you is exciting. We pray together as well, and just have that opportunity to come alongside. And this is where we work out some of those details of coming alongside. How do we accomplish this? We map it out together, and that's gives me a lot of joy too.
There's a lot of opportunity along the way. I like being part of that. I think that's a good the give and take inside the advising sessions can be really good for spotting those things.
I think every advisor wants to advocate for his or her student. That I want them to know that the registration session is only, and actually that's one of the easiest parts of the whole advising thing. It's not that hard to register for classes, and we can do that practically in our sleep. I mean, but the other stuff is that I'm your advisor in the registration session, but all the time, and so you can call on me at any time, and I make that available to my advisors. So please just drop by and see me. When I see you on the walking by on the sidewalk, I think, and I just ask her, how you doing, how's it going? So I have advisees that contact me frequently, and I love that. It's never a bother. It's never a bother. I hope that every advisee knows it's never a bother to talk about whatever.
Awesome. Thank you all for being here today, and our next session will be in 2 weeks, and we will be talking about mental health at that time. Thank you.